know that they are using a lot of technology to get people who don't believe in diversity, to get people who might be racists or haters out to vote.
That's Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi in a message to the city of Calgary. Nenshi is locked in a tight mayoral race, and he's suggesting some of his opponent's supporters may be using technology to spread hateful, racist messages. Nenshi's opponents deny any involvement and say they have also been targeted online. Nenshi's campaign manager later said in a statement that a small minority of people are responsible, but their actions have been magnified by online bots and anonymous accounts. Now, bots are essentially robots. They're fake social media accounts run by a computer algorithm that floods websites and networks with messages for or against a specific candidate. They first entered mainstream knowledge with allegations they influenced the last U.S. presidential election. So is this the new reality for elections? We're back with round 3 of the Sunday Scrum. Susan Riley, John Ibbotson, and Katie O'Malley all joining us from Ottawa. So this issue with the bots is absolutely fascinating, and it's incredibly damaging, unfortunately, to the political discourse. It's bad for intellectualism. It's bad for nuance, certainly. And in this country, is this how hateful messages are going to be spread? Susan.
I hope not. I mean, racism predates robots, right? And it's been around forever, and it's always been it's often an undercurrent, I should say. As I understand it, this technology simply hands a megaphone to people, to a minority, as Mayor Nenshi said, with hateful views. So, you know, I'm not sure the technology is the center of the issue. I think the issue is latent racism. I think we've seen some of that in certainly questions, at least, in the way Jagmeet Singh, the new NDP leader, has been welcomed as well. So yes, it's part of the discourse, and beyond that, I don't know how you counter it.
But in terms of the technology itself, John, it's incredibly effective. So Brad Parscale, nobody really knows this guy. Steve Bannon gets all the attention for getting Trump to the White House, but Brad Parscale was his digital social media platform manager, and he really ran the campaign and managed to get so much effective messaging out for President Trump through Facebook. And while there's a question about whether bots were used or not, he has denied them, but it's undeniable how effective they are. So couldn't this process, this technology, be used to get better messages out? Are you concerned that ultimately it's just going to get the ugliest, loudest voices out there? Well,
look, social media giveth and social media taketh away. Naheed Nenshi became mayor in 2010 because he effectively exploited social media to turn what was a dark horse candidate and make him mayor of Calgary. There's no question that ugly elements of the web are being magnified by bots and other means to allow marginal people who should be marginal to have a disproportionately large voice. But I think we're missing the very large horse in the room here, which is Naheed Nenshi is in trouble in his election campaign.
Right.
This was a mayor who I think got 76% in the last race. Bill Smith is giving him a run for his money. The polls are all over the map, and I've never seen polls as wildly disparate. Some which have Smith in a double-digit lead, some which have Nenshi in a double-digit lead. But there is an element of panic, I suggest, to all of this coming from the Nenshi camp as well, in that a race that they didn't think was going to be competitive has become very competitive, and they're running scared.
Okay, so we're going to talk more about bots, but then let's drill down a bit on this. Why is it so disproportionate? Is this polls, once again, not coming through, not making sense? What's going on in Calgary? Well, why is this guy, who was potentially one of the most popular mayors this country's ever had, now in such trouble?
Well, I think that time has that effect on people. And he, again, yeah. He was a very popular mayor. He sort of came from nowhere, was elected, sort of soared on this crest of popularity. It wouldn't shock me entirely, and I'm using a very careful verb tense because, as John says, the polls really are all over the map, and we may wake up on Tuesday morning and see that, yeah, Calgary still loves Mayor Nenshi. There he is again. So I'm couching this, but it is entirely possible that after a certain amount of time, voters they kind of want to change. They kind of want something different. There are irritants. There's things like taxes, property. There's little things that kind of add up and become cumulative. And if you've got another candidate there who's able to kind of take advantage of that, then yes, local races are the perfect example of something that can go from being sort of a walk in the park for the favorite to a tightly fought race, just because it is so very it is so very local.
Susan, do you think
you know,
that
this must be driving people in Calgary crazy, because here we are so far away from Calgary.
Yep.
So far
I
from
was
the
going to
ground.
say the same thing.
Yeah,
Sorry
my
about that,
sister-in-law is
Calgary.
probably annoyed. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, people in Calgary, but from what I've been reading from this vast distance, is that, as Katie said, you know, there is a lot of irritation about increasing property taxes in Calgary, but also the Conservatives, generally speaking, in Alberta are back on their heels, right? They've got an NDP government provincially, and they have met Nenshi, who's a darling of the kind of progressive left or progressive center, I guess. And maybe they just want to reclaim some turf. The other thing, too, is, of course, Calgary's seen a lot of economic reversal because of troubles in the oil patch and the oil industry. And so I guess unemployment, I was reading, is at 9.3%, which is very high by Alberta standards, and even high by Canadian standards. So there's a lot of discontent, and as Katie said, time. So they're probably as much a fact. Oh, I don't really know. People in Calgary can tell me. My sense is that they may be as much, if not more, a factor than latent racism.
Okay, this was supposed to be a discussion about the use of bots on Facebook, and it turned into the fact that a bunch of folks in Toronto and Ottawa are talking about the Calgary mayoral election. We'll see what happens in the coming days. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today.
Thank you,
My
Natasha.
pleasure.